This is the Good Scaz and the Rugby on the road again for episode 2 of the season, brought to you by our friends at Vodafone. It is very cold in the north. The frost has not even bothered melting. We're in Manchester, or just outside Manchester, at Carrington, at the training facility for the Sale Sharks, to catch up with the fourth wheel on our GSR car, Katy Daley-Mclean, who's the head of performance at Sale Sharks Women. And we're going to be spending some time with her and her boss today, because I don't know if you've heard, but this is one of the only, if not the only, clubs with a female owner. And Michelle Orange just happened to be around, and she's willing to make some of her time available to us, so we get to ask her tons of questions. She is not only Rachel Taylor's boss and Katy Daley-Mclean's boss, but she's also Alex Sanderson's boss. And the men's team have had some success of late. So we can talk about that and a bunch of other things. Scazzy and Mo will join us for a coffee in a bit, but I have some Elma questions I need to ask. Hello! Hi, I'm Elma.
Hi, Elma. Michelle Orange.
Nice to meet you. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you could have just done this. You did so well with your Abbey Ward interview.
Oh, thank you.
Intro the whole story.
It only took 22 takes, but small
Nonsense.
deals.
That's not what they told me.
She's getting there.
She's a one-take wonder. Thank you for welcoming me here.
You're so welcome, Elma. It's lovely to have you. Thank you so much for making the trip up north.
And you rolled out the sunshine even.
We rolled out the sunshine, we rolled out the cold.
Oh, well, I think it's glorious. Show me around.
Okay.
Wait. There's some shiny stuff here in the lobby. When was that?
So that's the men's Premiership trophy from 2006. So your glory day eras of Jason Robinson, Hanley, Cueto, Shabal, all that.
And there was very nearly a new one.
Very nearly a new one.
Yeah.
It won't be long. You know, we're sitting top of the table, the men, so you never know. We might get back to Twickenham by May.
Might have
Fingers
to build
crossed.
a really big cabinet.
Yeah,
there.
well, yeah, we did a small one, and we'll expand.
Make space for some more.
And then the most important person in the whole building is Angela, who's not our receptionist. She's our ticket office manager.
Hi,
so
Angela.
she's literally the person you need to know.
That's actually true, you do.
And we're going to move away from these doors because then Angela won't freeze to death if we keep opening.
Lead the way. Which way are we going?
So first most important room you get to is the women's office. If you want to have a look, it's really rather small. I apologise.
Whoa, it's significantly bigger than that old office.
It is true. It's getting bigger.
Yeah, and we've had numerous desk moves around there. This is version 4.
Okay, but it's 4 years. So
4 years. So like we started off with 5 staff.
Yeah.
In season 1, and we're now up to 14.
Gosh.
So it has grown.
You have to bear in mind when we actually moved into Carrington, which was during lockdown in 2019. Was that? I have like lost
2020.
Yeah.
We didn't have a women's team.
Yeah.
So we didn't need to factor in the space.
Initially.
Yeah, we didn't. We were just going through the process.
And this is where Manchester City used to be based.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
And then Bury Football Club after that, and then you guys took it on after that.
Yeah.
This is the office where all of the important work is done.
Yeah.
Something like that. There's a lot of coffee drunk in there as well.
Okay.
This is our lovely media room, which you've taken over. But that's really cool.
And that on-air sign with the shark that illuminates is
illuminate.
in all of your promotional
All our
content,
presses,
everything.
Yeah. Alex always sits in front of there.
Yes.
So we've got an assortment of analysis rooms. Players can come in with their coaches or individually or together, obviously review performance.
Some of the girls come in at 2, so they might come in, watch some bits, have physio. Some of the girls come in and they'll jump in between gym and skills. Some of the boys might be in their academy boys crossover on a Monday and Wednesday night. So there's always a nice little kind of, I suppose, passing of ships in there, which is nice. And I think the more time the girls are starting to spend, you're now starting to get those nice little small conversations in there as well.
That's interesting, and the boys use the same space. It's
same
what you're
space.
saying. It's like the same.
Yeah, but you do. It's lovely. You know, you'll see George Ford chatting to Lizzie Duffy, either congratulating her on an amazing performance or giving her some advice, or, you know, just people having catch-up socially.
Generally here at the bottom of the stairs, isn't
You've come on a quiet day. You've come on a quiet day because the men aren't in and the women aren't in. So
Okay, where do we go next?
So this is the crossroads. So this is probably the most important room in the house. This is the kit room.
Laundry room.
Laundry room, kit room. Of course, we've inherited this place from Manchester City and then Bury. So we've got, you know, footballer facilities, which is great. So
It is really handy.
This
though.
is like the mothers. You quite often find the male front row sitting here. It's like mothers meeting. We have a coffee machine in here.
A little fridge.
A little fridge.
The kit man get all the secrets. They're a bit like physios. Like if you ever needed to know anything, go generally speak to the kit man because he'll know before most.
Yeah.
And Pete loves a chat.
Yeah, he really does.
He does.
And Maka too.
Yeah.
Maka
They are
and
made
Pete
to
are
match.
Equipment, and they look after all the kit for both teams and the academy.
So just leave your little bag there, come back and it's like
leave it all.
sparkling.
Magic.
So,
It
all
is.
the boys.
I love seeing a Van der Merwe and a Van Rensburg and a Oosthuizen there against the wall. And at the Jager, did you just hang these out for my
Just for
benefit?
you.
It's just for my benefit. That's probably the reason I've known about Sale Sharks for as long as I have and have been paying attention to the fortunes of this club and the moves here is because the fact that this has become a bit of a home away from home for so many South African players.
Well, that dates back to us taking over the club. So Simon, Jed and I bought the club in 2016, 17. So we're now into 7 seasons. But when we first had the men's team, we were, I would say, not performing to our optimal. We were finishing bottom half of the table and we needed to improve. You learn pretty quickly after buying a rugby club that it's less enjoyable owning a rugby club when you're not winning. So after about a season, we weren't spending a lot. We weren't spending up to salary cap on the men, which is noticeable. If you don't go up to salary cap, it's much, much harder to compete, particularly away from home. And it was Steve Diamond, in fairness, along with our amazing team of analysts and recruiters, who sort of identified the South Africans as a target to bring here because we weren't able to attract any actual England stars. We weren't a sexy club. We weren't performing that brilliantly. And of course, people don't necessarily want to come and play for you if you're not performing. Completely understand that. You've got to work it out somehow. And you need to bring in talent to nurture your talent you've got. We knew, we had like the Currys already waiting to come on in the wings. But they need mentors on the pitch as well as off the pitch. You can't just rely on your coaching staff.
Yeah.
So that worked really well. And for Faf, it's been like a two-way street. Done wonders for the club, raised the profile of the club amazingly. Yeah. That's really, really galvanised the academy boys and made our team so much stronger. And that, proof in the pudding is when we went to Twickenham and played in the final back in May. There were 13 or 14 who were homegrown local lads, northern lads.
Yeah.
And that's because we've had that amazing input from the South Africans. And they're all Mancunians now, anyway. They're all
I was going to say.
Anyway, I want to show you this. So this is the first team management coaches changing room for the men. Fortunately, the girls don't have anywhere this luxurious, but I just wanted to go back to the point. This belongs to a football club. So, very plush changing rooms. Happens to be a bath in here. Just like not a bath that you would think you would find like a rugby club or a football club. It's literally like a standalone footed bathtub.
That's quite
Don't think anyone actually uses it. And then on the other side, because...
This is my favourite bit.
Who was it? Roberto
Mancini.
Where's it gone? Yeah. So obviously Mancini used this. They actually left the hairdryer.
Well, I mean, it's wired into the wall.
Yeah, it does work. So I don't...
That is a proper hairdryer.
There aren't many coaches in the men's stuff who actually have hair, are there? Dorian's quite short.
No.
Angie.
It's really
Alex has lost all his hair since he came to us, bless him.
Yeah.
So
it's a useful thing to have though in the building if you
it is useful.
I mean, if you did need a quick blow dry.
Yeah, there you go.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah,
That's why your hair looks so nice, Katy.
That's where I came just before I met you. Popped into the men's change room.
Wow, how very football.
So football.
Obviously the desire is to be able to extend the premises and recreate this for the women's stuff as well. But
until then,
yeah.
Until then,
Yeah,
we
I'm
knock
really
before
sorry.
we enter.
Yeah, exactly.
love that. So next up, where are we going?
Mud.
Woo! Sure, is it? How many pairs of boots are in here? Would we say?
No. A lot.
Many.
Well over 100, I'd say.
And there's some big ones as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, who has got the biggest feet?
I think Lude had the biggest.
Lee
didn't he?
definitely.
Was
Johnny
one-
Hill maybe. Probably
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of there as well.
Faf
had the smallest at 6. Because we used to
Yeah.
get hand-me-downs.
But Faf is
Small.
He doesn't even reach my shoulder, so it would be weird if he had flippers.
There.
to flop around?
I actually had to grow my hair so that my hair was not as long as this, because Faf and I for quite a long time actually had very similar hairstyles. And there was a photo, we were at a birthday, and it was a dinner in the evening, or not the dinner, the barbecue after the golf. We both were wearing like the same identical shorts polo shirt. And Sam Diamond, our media manager, cheeky little thing, took a photograph of the two of us sitting together, but like from the back, and it's like you couldn't really tell who, because we were the same size.
Yeah.
So
that was it.
So I had to change my hair, and then of course our golden unicorn left us. But
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to go shorter, you could now.
I could, yeah. But he's still in our hearts. So,
Always.
yeah, still in our hearts.
Love this. Brilliant.
And then that takes you out to the training pitches.
This way.
Is this it?
Yeah.
This arrow helps us, just in
Okay.
case. Our 50 cappers.
Our 50 cappers, which isn't bad, 4 seasons in.
Yeah.
Katy Houghton, Mary Grieve, Vicky Irwin, Georgie Perez-Redding,
GPR.
Laura Perrin. Love that.
Yeah.
Gonna keep building that ball.
Yeah. And then this is the dream that is the women's change room.
So Vicky E. Irwin is actually one of the reasons we've got a women's team. So when we bought the club, obviously we didn't have any women's rugby whatsoever. They knew, they played, they knew that the opportunity to bid, to tender, to actually join the AP 15s was coming up. And they pestered and they pestered and pestered me. And that was Vicky Irwin, Pez, Georgie Perez-Redding and India Perez-Redding, who all worked at that point in the community department, now the foundation. So on site all the time, when are we going to get a girls' team? When are we going to get a girls' team? So if it wasn't for them, I don't honestly think a women's team would have ever been on my radar.
Really?
I now see how important it is. As the Premiership club in the Northwest, that alongside the men's team, you have a women's team. Because you've got to have that flagpole, you've got to have that mountain for girls who love playing rugby to aspire to think we can play rugby in the Northwest. We can represent our region, we can represent our hometowns and stuff like that. So Vicky Irwin, I'm sorry, I've gone on a real tangent then, but Vicky E. Irwin and her lovely brother Richard very kindly over the summer roped in some of the women's team and constructed all this racking, shelving, boot
Literally
storage
built
and
it
stuff
all
like that from scratch.
So this was literally just a blue floor, and it just had
just had hooks.
school benches as well.
Oh yeah.
In there, so they've built locks. So this whole girls got storage underneath. Quite a few of the girls came down, had a bit of a barbecue, had some beers, and over probably about a 10-day period, built
It didn't
this.
even take that long.
Cut back. You had to come back and finish some. But yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
And so much ownership is being taken of the space.
Yeah, they really have. It's great. And as I say, I can't wait till I can give them better facilities. But for the time being, they're brilliant. You know, they accept it and they get on with it, and you know, couldn't be more thankful to them. And hopefully at some point we might own the training ground and we can expand and make it even bigger and better.
That's the other thing, it would, just the standards. Northern Rugby matters,
Of course.
above the doors, on the T-shirts, on the walls.
Everywhere. And then the other thing, I actually had this made for the girls by a local artist. This is Manchester, we do things differently here. So we added on the We Sail Sharks women, and actually this is a map of Carrington, and this is a map where Hayward Road is, where the girls play. So, yeah, ownership, identity all the way through. We're Northern, we're Sale. You know, we get that pride, don't we? Northern pride.
Indeed. And for those who don't know, the B is the symbol of
Manchester, yeah. So Manchester was obviously the heartland of the Industrial Revolution, and the bee was adopted as the symbol of the city because of the worker bee, the industriousness of that insect. So, yeah, if you go around Manchester city centre, there are bees everywhere.
Literally.
So good. Love it. I do love Manchester. I feel like it's so similar to Johannesburg, where I lived for 12 years, because it's also it's that industrial, economic, like people who just get stuff done. Energy. Just great.
Yeah.
Shall we go and see your friends?
Yes, let's do. I'm going.
Where are they? Oh, hi!
Guys!
Hi!
We are in what feels like a really fun room. I feel like some times must have been had here at Sail Sharks. There are 2 dartboards, a really nice old fireplace that looks a lot older than the rest of the room. It's wood panelled. There's a very fancy coffee machine in the corner, loads of balls. And there is a big motorbike against the wall. Scaz and Mo have joined us.
Good
We have
afternoon.
stepped into what is a very fun space here.
Very fun space. And as you said, there must be some stories in here. These 2 beside us started giggling. So I'd love to know what some of those stories are, because I'm sure this is probably very much the heartbeat of this place, I imagine.
Yeah, what goes in lockdown stays in lockdown, I'm afraid. So this is actually what we call the lockdown bar. It was created from scratch during lockdown, which is when we moved to Carrington during the pandemic. And it was, it's basically the social area for all, well, not just the players, anyone. There's a great coffee machine here. Manu's probably the best barista. He's getting competition, I think, from some of the girls. But yeah, a lot of fun's had in here. It's great meeting space during the day and chill out area in between sessions.
Now, the last time our Scaz visited these parts, there was a story told about how she thought she was just visiting Katy Daley-Mclean, and it turned into a recruitment opportunity.
Feel a little bit under pressure here, starting to sweat.
Katy Daley-Mclean is blushing deep red. Michelle, would you like to tell us your side of the story and what you heard?
I was definitely told by Katy that Emily was potentially thinking about moving north, might be interested to come play Sail Sharks. She was coming up to visit. Could I be around? Give her the tour of Carrington, show her around all the facilities. I was like, oh God, yeah, that'd be amazing. You know, like, what more would you want? The World Player of the Year coming to Sail Sharks would be incredible. So I did my best. Absolutely 100% convinced that, you know, I just had to do a good sell and we'd get Emily here. And I swear to goodness, I only found out that I'd been stitched up when I listened to your podcast back from, was it June, where Emily was like, I was a complete enough to stitch up. So yeah, KDM ought to be very grateful, but by then the season was virtually over. I was actually on holiday.
So she could keep her job.
Yeah, so she can definitely keep her job. But yeah, but Emily, the door's still open if you do ever want to come back.
Brilliant. Got it.
Sorry to jump in, but how did Katy break the news that Scaz wasn't coming?
She just said, you know, I asked for an update. She said no, she's decided, you know, and I was like, fine.
Said the cell wasn't very good.
No, she didn't. She did. And look, I completely understand it, you know. But we're growing our own anyhow. We're growing our
Katie's
own.
got a point she wants to make. She keeps
Right.
raising her hand.
Yes, I
for
do.
those that are just listening.
Because Mo and me, we've chatted about this. We know Scaz very well, don't we?
Yes.
And sometimes, Emily, I would argue that what you don't say with your words, you maybe say with your actions.
No, I would agree, because at one point I genuinely thought she was considering Gloucester Hartbury as well. So I think the issue is that Scaz just likes to feel wanted, I think. So she just
come
leaves the
on.
carrot dangling.
And that is it. A
And who's
carrot.
not going to grasp that?
Right, carrot. She was currently actually playing at this point, and she was World Player of the Year, and she was actually pretty decent. So I was like, Michelle, quick, you need to get down here. I mean, now the offer would be significantly lower.
Significantly lower.
What
yeah.
I'm taking from this is Scaz was trying to drive her price up.
I think you're
That's
right,
all
Mo.
I'm taking from this. So
Girls, you know where I play. There ain't no price driving going on anywhere.
Can we talk about where you play and how upset the internet was? At the picture, for those who have not seen it, a picture came out that stunned all of Leicestershire. They're all very upset with you in
They
your
are.
Northampton Saints colours.
Yeah.
So the Loughborough Lightning badge is still on the shirt, but the
Yeah.
rest of it is green and yellow and black.
Yeah.
But you are very much born and bred Leicester girl, right?
It's a tricky one for me, I'll be honest with you. Obviously, yeah, born and bred Leicestershire, have supported Leicester Tigers my entire life. Everybody knows that. It's not a secret.
still do?
And obviously now...
That was a question mark. I don't know whether.
Question.
Sorry, I needed to go up at the end. Still do?
The men's side, obviously...
You know you haven't answered that question.
No, I know, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay,
I think she's now auditioning for the diplomatic corps.
It's obviously, it's a very tricky position to be in.
Is this because you want Leicester to offer you more money?
No, again, still not driving any price anywhere. Isn't it nice when you have two of your best mates on it? You just get stuck in. But obviously our partnership with Northampton Saints, Northampton and Leicester, traditionally just Midlands rivals through and through. It's always bitter. The boys played each other a couple of weeks ago and it's spicy at the best of times. So there's a hell of a lot of history there between the men's sides. And yeah, obviously with our developing partnership, our away strip, despite the fact we're playing all our home games at Franklin's Gardens, but our away strip is now in the Saints colours. So we had a little pick the other day just to kind of showcase that. And yeah, some of the Leicester Tigers faithful weren't too happy. I get it.
Was it a fake smile? Because there were people commenting saying you can see on Emily Scarrett's face that she is not enjoying this. They didn't buy your smile.
Look, people will see what they want to see, won't they? I'm always trying to smile, whether it's legit or not. I was happy to be there.
Sorry, this is Emily Scarrett at her best, right? Look, whenever you ask her a question that she doesn't really want to answer or doesn't want to put her 2 cents in, you just get this sit on the fence in the most diplomatic, unbelievable way.
This is tricky though. This is tricky
No, I agree,
because
I
I'm
agree.
always invested where I am, which is obviously Loughborough and partnered with Saints. But obviously you can't help
Your
the
history.
history and the where you grew up. Like we talk a lot about Northern Rugby Matters and where people grew up and what that means to them. I can't help where I grew up and what I spent a lot of my childhood kind of rooting for.
Head versus heart.
Some may say.
And there's a mural of you somewhere out there, so
A mural.
Leicester Forest.
Mural.
There we are.
I've missed that.
She's just trying to pretend she's going with that now, isn't it?
Where did you tell me about another mural the other day? There's a mural that's gone up in
Gloucester.
In Gloucester?
Yeah. So they've got this new bar. Basically, the owner has bought the Heritage, which is a bar next to Gloucester, and they've put like this big, I can't even say it, I don't know what the right word is anymore, but
Just take the eye out.
mural. Really? That sounds so weird. The mural. There's this big mural on the back wall, but like with loads of Gloucester legends. So like people that have played before, Phil Vickery, like loads of people that have played.
Are you on
and-
it?
Yeah, so there's a few of us
good.
girls that have made it. I don't look anything like me though, honest to God. I do not look anything
One of those
like
like
me.
caricatures.
Yeah, it is. It's really bad. Like big scrunchie. I'll take a photo and
You know you wear a
scrunchie.
big scrunchie.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I know, but I don't have any hair to wear them anymore. So, but no, it's super cool. Super cool.
Now, the season has gotten off to a really interesting start. Everyone is trying to figure out, based on the stats and the numbers and the score line so far, with who has beaten who's actually ahead. But we have to have a moment for that second round win over Quins, regardless of how everything has worked out. You had your opening game at Bristol. The last time we had you on our channels, you were in Bristol before the season started to chat to Abby Ward. Go watch that if you haven't watched it yet, because
Very good.
it is beautiful.
Thanks, guys.
Very good.
And you were like Miss Presenter person there as well, like a whole intro link. How did you find that experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely different. You guys make it look so easy. I think that's one of the biggest thing I learned. I was like, oh,
When you say
fine.
you guys, you just mean Elma, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like,
Okay, I was trying to be polite, among friends.
We've just had a dog walk on set. I love this. Hi, Bob. His name's Bob. Hi, Bob. We
More
met
dogs.
earlier.
We have everything here at Carrington, including kennels. Everyone's encouraged to bring their dogs to work. It's a really, it's therapy dogs.
Love that.
Inclusive, isn't it?
Inclusive.
So cool.
So cool.
Yeah, sorry, Bob. So yeah, it was. I think there's a lot of time for the guys who produced it because there was a lot of coaching. I think I started off like a newsreader. Which apparently wasn't the look we were going for, and then eventually kind of eased into it. But Abby was brilliant. She shared a lot of things that I think are really important to talk about, like that kind of mum parent role returning to play, how well she's done it. Obviously she hadn't played at that point. I think it was really cool just to normalise it, and the only way we do that is by speaking about it, and I think she's a brilliant advocate and role model for the mum role. We've got Deb Fleming, there's other girls out there, but I think Abby probably has the biggest profile, and the fact she's using it in such a positive way is really lovely.
I also thought it was really important you sharing your story as well, though, and your experiences, because obviously Abby has done this wonder return. And obviously, I mean, I've never been through it, but it's not always like that.
Man.
It's not, a lot of mums and people have said, oh, that's amazing. But actually the other side of it sometimes isn't easy, and it is hard, and you know, you don't get back to doing normal things in 17 weeks.
No, and I think the resource, isn't it? The biggest thing that Abby was able to use was the resource and the support she had. And definitely speaking on the flip side of that, definitely bits of me that are really envious that she was able to go and do all those things because of the support she had from top medics, top S&Cs, the way they planned her birth of Hallie as well. So fair play to them. They really, really kind of utilised what she had about. But like you say, for most of us, that's probably not where you go after 17 weeks of having a C-section. So for me, it was interesting listening to her story. Definitely some bits that I say I was probably a bit envious about, but I think the biggest thing is about that mums can do that and what is capable and what's possible now in rugby, when previously we just thought, you know, is if you want to play rugby, you didn't have kids or you had it at the end of your career, actually they can be really part of that story now. And that's a really nice message to be able to share.
My favourite bit of that whole conversation was when you asked, and I checked with Shira, our producer, the super brain, because she was behind this. I checked with her where this question came from, and she says this was 100% a Katy Daley-Mclean executive decision. When you asked her, she said she's really excited about Hallie growing up in this space surrounded by all these great women that she gets to play with. And you asked her, which of the women that you play with do you hope has the biggest impact, or Hallie turns out to be the most like? And she tried to not answer you. She tried to skip around that. And you pushed on and you said, no, come on. Come on. And then she said Hannah Bottoman. And the way that she described why and how, I felt was probably the most revealing answer I've heard her give to almost any question, and I've listened to tons of interviews that Abby's done over the last while. I thought that was chef's kiss.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's a huge compliment.
Yeah, that is top praise from you as well.
That was so good. That was genuinely very, very impressive. And the answer was beautiful, and the whole story. And then seeing her make that return, opening game of the season, Hallie's there, the whole moment, big rah-rah. I just have
Scoring
loved.
a try.
All right. We don't need to talk about everything.
Because it was
Guys.
Okay.
But how
right, moving
cute
on.
were those photos?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, but that was the best thing to come out of that weekend.
No, and I
photos.
think the thing that is amazing, isn't it, is that it was a fairy tale return for Abby. Like, she's done that physically. Her body's is capable. And like we said, all the bits that have come into it. But how important is that? If you are a young girl now who is 18, 19, 20, you haven't even thought about having a family or wanting a family, that becomes normal. It doesn't become where you've got to be different. You've got to fight a cause, because all these barriers are now being broken down. And I think we talk about wanting to be widely viewed and for young girls to be able to see this. And it's just another tick in the box, isn't it? It's like, you can have a career playing rugby now. You can also have a family playing rugby, and you're going to be well supported. And look, here's the evidence to prove that. And I think having kids, that's what you want. You want everything to be on the table. And the more you guys do this, the more that becomes apparent to that group.
When I saw the scoreline of your win over Quins,
Nicely done.
My heart went out to people like you and the owners of this club who put so much energy and effort into the project. In the first week, you take a 48-5 loss. And then you come back the next week and you give your home fans, who turned out anyway, something massive to celebrate with a win over Quins. What was that like for you, Michelle?
I don't know, I'm still speechless. I couldn't believe that we were like 3 tries up at half time. And it was just the most magnificent performance. And we're a squad that is still growing. And I've watched many, many games where the Sale Sharks women have been leading and have been tough and resilient and stuff like that. And then we've sort of petered off towards the end of the game. We've lost. There's so many times that I've spoken to people after one of our matches in previous seasons, like, we played with such tenacity, so much resilience. Basically, at the end of the day, we were probably a bit let down that we weren't quite physically fit enough, and then the mental fatigue kicks in, and the scoreline doesn't reflect actually the performance that the girls had put in. It's our biggest victory today, and I was just immense proud for the whole, not just the players, but for the coaching squad to have picked themselves back up and come up with a performance on like that. So,
Yeah, I think that is massive.
Clearly not speechless.
You were at the time. It's amazing for everybody to share that, but I think the week leading up to it, Rachel Taylor done a fantastic job with, we've got new coaches in there, Mark Luffman's in there, Louise Daglish's in there, and that group had done a really good job of being able to look at Bristol and look at that actually probably wasn't how we would want to represent ourselves, and turn that around in 7 days. And I think that is, like Michelle touched on there, is one of the biggest differences in this group. That would have been games that we historically would have lost. We would have got really close, we would have put up a great fight, we would have gone into the lead, and then all of a sudden we would have dropped off the edge of the cliff, and that game would have finished 36-35 to Quins. And I think probably what the work definitely Rach has put in is about changing that mindset, and that we can compete, we do deserve to be here, and that actually we can move ourselves up this table. And those kind of moments now going in our favour, I think she deserves a lot of credit for that.
It was like pre-match, wasn't it, before the Bristol game? So first week out, I think, I can't remember who was saying it, but top 4 is the aim for this season. And then you see snippets of it just after the second half against Bristol. You start to play, you string some really good phases together. And then I think when you do something like that against the Quins, that's when you just start to galvanise the group. And it's like you start to grow, you start to believe. And then who knows what's going to come. Obviously,
Gloucester-Hartpury this weekend.
Gloucester-Hartpury this weekend. We won't go on that. But I think it's just really cool. Like, we were there a few years ago where it's like you're the nearly team and then you just can't quite get over the line. But as soon as you start to shift the balance in your favour, the girls just grow with that.
Yeah, evidence is huge, isn't it? We can talk about it, we can action it, but until you have that physical evidence to say we can turn over a top 4 side, and like Michelle said, Quins are steeped in history. They've been around a very long time. They are very well resourced. They've got some brilliant players. For our girls to be able to do that and see that and live that, they're the kind of...
And going through the experience of actually then winning the game. Because like the cliche of you learn so much from losing games. Yeah, fine. But at some point we've got to learn to win, and then just, keep sucking on that experience of how you do that, what that feels like to then be able to go and do it again. And yeah, it was a huge result. And I think probably just showed that actually this league this season, I think is going to be quite fun.
For a neutral.
Well, yeah. For all of us, it's going to be so stressful.
It's a nice opportunity for you two, Scazzy and Mo, to just come take a look around here, have a little chat to some of the girls in the passage. I spotted you earlier with Taisha Harper. Have you been? What have you been picking up?
No, I just love that girl. She's just awesome. Obviously, Taisha and Moena signed from Loughborough this season and have moved up. Mozza got her first captaincy at the weekend. How did she go, by the way?
She went really well. Yeah. She's probably more so in Scazzy's ilk of very calm, but when she speaks, people want to listen. And I think, Mozza's 21? And you think when you're putting in performances like that, I think she went man of the match for our girls. Captaincy, second game for the club. I mean, what a bright future. We always said that when we were at Loughborough together, but just keeps going from step. Yeah, it's impressive.
No, I love that. We were just catching up about how much they're enjoying it up here, which I know is probably hard to take because obviously Loughborough last season, but Taisha was saying that her rugby, she's just like, since being here, she's just on this upward trajectory of just really loving it. And I think it speaks volumes for what you're trying to build here and how this place is. So,
and you just want, for me, like you want people to be in environments where they thrive.
Yeah.
And that will be different for everybody. For some people that will be here, for some others it won't be. And the same for every club. And I think those two have come up here. Taish coming home essentially because she's from this part of the world. Moz isn't too far away, and they're just loving it. They were saying they're living with Beatrice Rigoni, which I can only imagine how much fun that is. And like just things like that, new relationships being built, opportunities on field, and they seem to be thriving. Like Moz has got one hell of a future ahead of her. Do you call her Beatrice or Beatrice?
Bea.
Yeah. And we're just staying with that.
Can you do that again?
Katy just shouts it. Those are the best.
Yeah.
How did you recruit her head of performance, Katy Daley-Mclean?
I'm not sure this has anything.
Katy said, I've got somebody that might be interested. Michelle came in.
Great tour.
Jason Robinson was out there.
Faz was walking around in his boxes. I know he was gone by then.
Sorry, carry on.
I like it. Michelle did a really good job. Bea was, obviously we had Sarah Chinese here, and it was just conversations like that. She's really good friends with Sarah. We invited her to come down. Rachel Taylor sold her the kind of vision of what we want to create here. I think for her, she likes that underdog nature. The idea of being able to build something and thrive and be part of something that's growing rather than something that's already made. And I think that was for her was a big pull to us, you know, like Michelle's talked about, this group is on the up and they're rising, but there is a lot of growth to be had. And having somebody with her presence, her rugby ability and her profile was really, really interesting to us. And she was really easy to kind of work with once you'd seen the place. And like I say, I think being really good friends with Sarah massively helped. They're all now living together down the road in a house of 11. So there's a couple of Americans in there. There's an Italian, a couple of Italians. There's a couple of English girls in there. It's a couple of Scots in there. It's like a pub joke.
You were telling us about this earlier. Is this another Michelle idea?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the Women's
Yeah.
Sharks House. Well, we were having a meeting, I think it was probably about 18 months ago, wasn't it? We were having a meeting and we were talking about how much we were paying out in rent because, you know, we do have quite a few international players here. So, of course, we have to accommodate them. And we, you know, paying a few £1,000s out a month in rent to the private landlords. And Simon and I were sitting in the meeting and I was like, well, why don't we just see if we can find a house and buy it and then the girls can stay there? And I whipped up Rightmove on the browser and
You
actually...
can say whipped out your checkbook then. Yeah, that'll do
That was
it.
the day after Scaz.
After she'd viewed it.
Typed in M33, which is the postcode for sale, and literally this property comes up on like first thing. And I know this house really well because it's literally around the corner from where I grew up, because I grew up half a mile from Hayward Road where the girls play. Been a bed and breakfast for years and years and years. I was like, oh my gosh, that's on the market. Didn't know. Literally within 2 days, we'd gone to look at it. It was being used at a somewhat questionable B&B at the point in time. Put an offer in, got it accepted, got a local builder friend, Ian, who did this amazing job of renovating it. And we turned it into an 11-bedroom, all-ensuite house. So every girl has their own room, their own ensuite shower room, toilet. There's a bathroom in there so girls can have a bath as well. Laundry room, 2 lounges, massive big kitchen. Everyone has their own fridge. So there's no arguments. You know, you've got your own milk, your own food, great big communal dining area. And then outside they've got a barbecue. Of course, there's a basketball hoop because the Americans are there. And it's literally across the road from Hayward Road. It's brilliant. I get to park there on match days. I don't have to worry about squeezing into the car park at Hayward Road. I just park at the house and walk down.
That's an expensive parking space.
No, not really. It's at the end of the day, you know, from mine and Simon's point of view, we own it privately. It's not owned by the club. It's an investment. We've actually identified another property in sale we're thinking of trying to buy and turn into the same for the academy boys. You know, we've got salary caps that we have to stick to, but it's how can you add value without obviously breaking the salary cap rules, and doing something like that and giving them a lovely house. Because also it means that, you know, the other players can go and, you know, have socials there and stuff like that. So, yeah.
She's played a blinder because each of these rooms is only £150 rent a month. So the salary cap, don't even worry about it.
I am on the REMCAT working committee. No, yeah, don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Does the house have a nickname? Like the girls call it? Because we used to have one at Loughborough and it sounds a complete dive compared to this place, but it used to be called CDL, which stood for Cassadell Loughborough. Obviously complete irony.
No idea.
But have they given it a nickname? No.
I've only been in it once since girls moved in. They very kindly invited me for supper and had a lovely supper. Haven't been back since. I am very OCD. It would probably do my head in to go and have a look at it now.
That's why they invited you early doors.
Yeah, they invited me early doors. So, maybe we'll have to go and do an inspection of it at some point. But, yeah.
What did they make you?
Mexican.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That's amazing. So talk to me about the homegrown talent you guys have here, because you're so passionate about bringing girls through the system. You've done this with aplomb in the men's side. You had so many of the players that you've brought to your own academy representing at that final at Twickenham, which I think must be, as an owner and as someone who's busy coaching here, you're always looking at the bigger picture. You're always going, okay, this is where we are now. These are the players we need to win this weekend. How do we get to solve the bigger problem of Northern Rugby Matters? And this is how we address the concerns around getting enough representation and enough grassroots development done here.
So when we bought the club in 2016, obviously with the men's side, the boys' side, we already have what we call the DPP. I'm sure every club has a different name for it, the Development Pathway Programme. So from the boys' side of rugby, we're out scouting from about the age of under 12, under 11. So all the, there's like 100 grassroots club within the Northwest area. And then, those boys come into our pathway and carry on playing with their clubs or their schools and then come for training with the club at half terms, school holidays, etc. And obviously our coaches are monitoring their progress. I'm sure that happens right across the country. We've set up a women's team. We didn't have a women's team at all. Women's rugby wasn't on the radar when we bought the club. It was 3 years in. Yeah, 3 years in, we set up the women's team. And the first few years has basically just been focusing on trying to recruit the girls to come and play for the club. We're now at the stage, right, okay, we need to do exactly what we've done on the boys' DPP. We've got to set up a girls' DPP and start going, identifying talent, encouraging girls to play for one, because, we're still in an area where not that much rugby is played in schools. Quite a lot of the local rugby clubs have no girls sections at all. But starting to promote the game, encourage girls to play the game, and then start really spotting the talent, identifying that talent and nurturing it, and hopefully eventually getting them through what will be, we'll have 16, 17, 18-year-olds in a full academy system that they're going to then feed into the main Sale Sharks women's team.
And that, I guess, is why it's really important to have a player like Lizzie Duffy just pulling the strings, but also being able to point it to the opportunities that exist right here where you are from.
Yeah, definitely. You've got two strands, haven't you? You've got the future of what will be our squad in probably 10, 12 years, but you've got the immediate, and then you've got somewhat in between. And I think for us, Lizzie is almost like that showcase of that. She's a young girl from the region who stayed in the region. You look at Tysh went to Loughborough and we're returning her to the Northwest. Daisy Hibbert-Jones from the region but is currently in Loughborough. There's a couple of girls. Steph Ells is at Gloucester. So
Jodie.
One of the biggest things at the moment is about returning Northwest girls to the Northwest. That for me is a massive passion, I think, and I've lived it, that just because you're from the North doesn't mean you can't play rugby at a high level in the North. I went from DAP to Loughborough. You look at Sarah Hunter, Zoe Allcroft, Abby Ward. The list is endless of girls who've been in the North that have ended up playing rugby in the southwest. So I think the big one, the immediate, is about returning those girls. Can we get them back to the Northwest playing? Because that will really help us in the short term. And then, like Michelle says, in the longer term, is about finding the talent, getting more girls playing. If we've got more girls playing, we've got more to select from. Therefore, you then start to cherry pick your talent. And it's really as easy as that.
And
simple.
Yeah.
Simple.
In fairness to the Roses, who obviously aren't playing, who are from the North but aren't playing in the Northwest, well, it's because it wasn't really a pathway and opportunity for them. Obviously, we had the great Furwood Waterloo, who unfortunately, when the second to last tender process went out to get a place within what was then Premier 15s, they were unsuccessful and we kind of took their place. But they hadn't necessarily been enjoying great success. And obviously, if you are a great rugby player and you've got England potential and stuff like that, you don't necessarily want to play at a club that's not competing. 100% get that. And, full respect. It must be very, very hard for these girls who are from the North, who've had to actually move away from their locale, their neighbourhood, their families, their friends, to go and play, to basically pursue their passion and play rugby. I'd never call myself an owner of a club. Call ourselves stewards of a rugby club, because you do. Because, Sale's is one of the oldest rugby union clubs in the country since 1861. Simon and I and Jed only will own it until probably we die, and then it'll get passed on. But it's our responsibility, I think, as the Premiership club in the Northwest, to sort of lead that way and help the RFU with their mission to broaden the women and girls game. So the love would be, we could, rather than lose people like your Daisy Hibberts, like your Jodie Ounsley, who unfortunately we lost, is to get those girls to come back potentially, but also to ensure that any of the girls we are home growing, like Lizzie Duffy, isn't going to be tempted to go away. And there are three things that are going to affect that. One, we've got to make sure that environment for the girls is brilliant. It's not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, that they can see their career development. And then we have to also try and make sure that the other clubs aren't trying to poach them. If we're gonna put all the talent into developing them, that their heads aren't going to be turned, and then they're going to find a reason why they want to go down, play rugby in the Southwest when they live in the Northwest, if you see what I mean.
If you had not a magic wand, but if you were in charge of this, either of you, because the North is a big place, just having obviously Sale as the representation is probably not it's not big enough, is it? Or the North is too big for one club. Yeah. Like what, as I say, if you had a magic wand or you could take charge of this and try and, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, but what would be like your key things you'd go after in terms of trying to get more girls playing rugby in the North or get another club up here? Or do you know what I mean? Like what
have to have a club in the Northeast, don't you? The region is too big. We go all the way out to the lake. So we go to Keswick. We're now going into, there's girls that travel from Newcastle to us, which is 155 miles in one direction. Like that is not sustainable for them, especially not when they're working. So you need a club in the Northeast. I think that's huge. Our demographic of where we split our top players is hard, isn't it? Because everybody is pooling in the South, and until we try and support movement of that's, if you look at the teams that are going well, they are heavily stacked with red roses. So how do we create movement? Like Michelle said, I think environmentally we've got to create something that people want to come to, and we've got to do that by winning, creating environments and allowing people to make sure that they are developing.
Do you think winning is the first bit? Do you genuinely think that like creating more of a winning culture here and a team that's rising the table will then, the rest will fall into place behind it, or it's not as simple as that?
I think sometimes it is as simple as that. I think if you're looking at a club and you want movement, would you go to the bottom of the table or would you want to go to the top? And I think most of us who want to be very competitive and want to be successful, you want to go to places that are winning, or you need to see something else from them that, say like Rigoni is seeing something else where she thinks she can make a difference to help us strive. I wonder sometimes whether as English players we are less adverse from that because we're so used to our international game being at the top. It's what we know. Whereas if you've come from maybe a nation of Scotland, Wales, some of our homegrown nations, they're much more comfortable going, actually, I can go and add something. I can go and grind this out. I don't know whether as English players we've just become a little bit too precious to that.
So, I mean, our working model has got proven success. So when we took over the club in 2016, we didn't have one single male in England international within the team. We couldn't get them. We just couldn't attract them. So that's why we actually went out and we recruited. And it worked. You know, we got Faf de Klerk. Faf's now obviously moved on. He's left us. I'm not taking any credit away from Rafi and Gus War, but I suspect without having Faf de Klerk to train alongside and to mentor them along the way, we wouldn't be looking at what potentially maybe two of the best scrum halves for England. So it's worked, and that's basically this worked for the men's side. And obviously, as Elma said, in the final, we had, I think, 13 or 14 were Northern homegrown players. We're doing that on the women's side in that we've had to go overseas to find talent because we need talented players to bring this, you know, these burgeoning local girls to come up through the ranks.
So Alex Anderson is this is the most northern person. Like if I think about like men's rugby voice that like it clearly is from these parts, then he pings in my head. Is Katy the female equivalent?
100%.
Is that why you recruited her? Yeah. Was
absolutely.
that the thing?
Well, I mean, Katy kind of recruited herself. She basically...
That doesn't sound like her at all.
No, she did. All kudos to Katy. You know, as soon as we got a team, Katy put her hand up and goes, I want to come play in the Northwest. You know, this is what I want to do. And we couldn't have had a better... It's all going to go to her head.
Wait. What was that? There was a whisper.
Sorry.
Off
it just
mic.
came back to my... Can we tell the recruitment story? I don't think if it's ever been out there. Can you tell it?
Yeah,
Can we tell it?
Yeah, there's nothing. I'm not telling it because I want to hide under the table.
Okay, fine.
Microphone to the mouth.
Sorry, I'm not telling it because I'm going to hide under the table.
Mo and I were trying to do a job between us. So basically, Katy was at Loughborough, right? What year were we talking?
Yeah, so... Yeah,
the year sale came in, isn't it?
20.
So I'm going to give you a bit of a backstory.
September 2020.
Okay.
Basically, I'd met Michelle
part.
in the March. The club were talking about putting a tender into it. I knew it was coming to the end of kind of the career and stuff. I obviously lived in Manchester. Spoke to Michelle. These guys were super passionate about the club. So just wanted to like speak to her, feel her out, see kind of how serious they were. Definitely when I met her, very, very serious. So I was like, brilliant. So these conversations are going on in the background, chatting to my friends, supportive, still playing at Loughborough. Okay, that's the end of my bit.
Only chatted to Scaz. So at this point, I think Emily is the only person that knows about this.
So basically, which group was it? The England one?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, okay, fine.
It was England.
So basically,
England group.
one evening...
Tuesday evening it was.
Tuesday evening... Katy has obviously got her sale contract through. So she's only spoken to me about it, obviously spoken to Michelle and the guys about it, but not spoken to Loughborough, not spoken to anybody else.
No, I've spoken to Reese. I hadn't spoken to the girls. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Sorry. Spoken to Reese, not spoken to anybody else, basically. Reese, former Loughborough coach.
Yeah.
So basically, we're all just chilling on a Tuesday night, and then all of a sudden something pops up on our phones, and it's from Katy, and it's on our England group, right? So
with the staff, not just players.
Yeah, the whole England group, all staff, physios, coaching staff, all players. So like probably a group of about
Sarah
50
Hunter's
people.
also on this group.
Sarah Hunter's also
my
on it.
Loughborough teammate. Okay.
So we
close
basically,
friend.
we click on it and it's, I look at it and it's like basically quite clearly a contract from Sale Sharks. Sale Sharks at the top, you know, all the fancy wording between Katy, Daley-Mclean and Sale Sharks, da, 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 da. So I'm like messaging her like, mate, I think you just sent something to the wrong person. So then she panics, clicks on it, tries to deletes for herself, but not everybody else. So then it's now sat on the group and Katy can do sweet
The
FA
context
about
of
it.
this
Wait,
is-
I haven't finished.
Oh, God.
So basically, Katy is upstairs, I think looking after a child, one of the children.
In the pitch black. I'm
In the
sitting
pitch
in a
black.
child's bedroom with a sleeping child on me,
Her contract-
literally watching this on my phone.
Her contract has obviously just come through and she's
wasn't-
tried to send it to her other half who's downstairs while she's looking after said child, but puts it on the main England group.
Luckily, it wasn't a contract. It was the letter to say...
Yeah, no
basically,
figures.
No figures. There's no, thank goodness.
But it
just
was
the
the
letter.
funniest thing
Oh, man,
because she
yes, I
deleted
just-
it for herself.
So I'm
couldn't-
on the phone to our team manager. I'm ringing these guys. Meanwhile, the girls from the England group are like, Katy, you've put something on the group that you didn't need to. I'm like, I know. I've tried to do this in a whispered voice. I've rang Annie. I think I've rang Mids at this point. Because I'm just like, please, can somebody take this off? Like, no, they couldn't, honestly. So I'm literally just sitting there, like saying, in the end, I just have to put a message on the group being like, hi guys, just so you know, that wasn't meant for you all. Just in case anybody's wondering, I'm going to Sale. Sons, I'll give you a call in a bit. Hope you're free.
For a neutral, as this unfolded, oh my goodness, it was gold. It was gold.
It
wasn't
was so funny.
Poor
It's one of the best blunders I think we've ever had on a group.
Leanne Riley
second-
was good.
Leanne Riley's was good, yeah. True.
And yeah, Al Richardson.
Al Richardson
that
was good as well.
up there.
Okay, there's
We
been a
won't-
few.
We won't go over there.
We have to go back there, even though your moment of embarrassment will now forever be one of my favorite work WhatsApp group mishaps.
Michelle, did you know about that?
No.
No.
I'm learning lots. All through this podcast, I'm just going to literally...
Picking up lots of little bits here along the way. We went to DMP's last game and you were there as well because Vodafone had sponsored them for the last season that they were in the Prem. And one of the conversations we had over and over with people about why this happened and what makes it challenging to run a club in the North and how to retain it and how to sustain it is getting enough games broadcast. Now, I work in broadcast and have spent many an hour trying to build a budget that allow for broadcasts to be done, both here but also in a much bigger country, roughly 4 to 7 times the size of this one. So I understand the cost of putting outside broadcast trucks on the road and making them drive 16 hours somewhere. What I can't understand is why it's hard to do that in a country the size of England, because it's not that far, sorry to say, but it really isn't. But so the message that we got was the reason it's important to get games broadcast on TV and to have an equal number of broadcast opportunities split as evenly as you can geographically is because your local sponsors who have their names on all of those advertising boards around the pitch, and you're nodding because you've had this conversation ad nauseum, they get a lot of exposure. Outside of the branding on the kit, the branding around the pitch is important, and then also having those local events be broadcast so that there's a bit of FOMO that builds in your area and people go, oh, look at the nice atmosphere. Maybe I should go down to the ground this weekend and experience it for myself. It's all promotion. It's all marketing. It's all just getting the word out. Now, I still battle to understand why it's so hard to split these opportunities evenly, but that has to structurally be something that would have to change or be addressed somehow, somewhere. Is there any rumour of this shifting?
I have no idea. I mean, looking at the men's game, I know poor Newcastle, they've had a rough end of the deal again in terms of how many matches they've been televised on this season. And, again, with us, we actually are the only team in the league who will not be having a home televised game
with TNT. And now that is because they say that the facilities at Hayward Road aren't yet good enough. And it was explained. So for people who don't know, the men's team, the Sale Sharks men, play at what is called the City of Salford Community Stadium. And the women's team play at Hayward Road, which is the ancestral home of Sale and is where Sale FC, who are in National 1, play. The reason that we put the girls' games on at Hayward Road, because as of yet, we just haven't got a crowd to justify having it. I don't want to have a match at a 10,000 seater stadium that's only going to have maybe 500 supporters. So we're playing at Hayward Road because it's the better venue to help grow the game. And eventually, hopefully in 3 or 4 seasons' time, we will be playing every single game at this women's game. Hopefully we'll be having double headers. We'd been promised a double header in the fixture list. I think that's every Premiership men's team that has a women's team obviously want to be able to have showcase. So, you're both playing. So, for example, Gloucester play back-to-back with Leicester. It's brilliant. We haven't got one. We've not been given one. Makes it really difficult. The only potential we had to do for us to stage a women's game at the City of Salford Stadium is the day that we play La Rochelle in what is now the Investec Champions Cup. There's no cohesion there. You can't play La Rochelle, who are the current European champions, and then we would be playing Leicester women. So it's frustrating. I'm sure it will improve. I understand PWR's, RFU's, TNT's point of view that maybe Hayward Road isn't what they want to showcase. But for me, when you're trying to grow a game from basically scratch, or shall we say reboot a game, because obviously Waterloo have this amazing history, but that's all pre-televised games and stuff like that. You want the girls to play somewhere where they're not going to be rattling around. The crowd are going to like it. The crowd can actually walk around. Hopefully we'll have homegrown supporters from the actual town of Sale. So there are many challenges. That's just one of many of owning and running a rugby club.
So the message is, can we get more people to come out and watch Katy's team?
100%.
They beat Harlequins and they're going to beat Gloucester.
Gloucester's away.
Gloucester's away, though. Yeah.
Oh. But I mean, just get a big travelling contingent behind it.
Loughborough.
Big.
Yeah, let's go after that. Let's
Here
go
we
after that.
go.
Bottom of the table.
Here we go.
Mo said that.
There at the minute.
After round 2, Mo, we had a bye.
Sorry. Do you think that's the future though? Is trying to have the men's team linked with the women's team and then the double headers and trying to go that way, or would you like to see it almost branch off as its own?
Not every week,
entity?
but I think it's a big draw.
Especially for us, because we need to jump on the back of our men's support. We probably don't have our own group of supporters yet. There are some really loyal fans that come down regularly to Hayward Road, but we probably need to increase that. And maybe for us, if, I don't know, Sale play Leicester, the men play Friday night, the women play Saturday at 12, maybe people stay over in Manchester for the weekend. And I think it just supports, doesn't it? And ultimately what we need to do is we need to provide more opportunity. And I think, like Michelle said, there's just another way, isn't it, of doing that.
I love that Sale has you. I think this is so good. Like, it's just amazing seeing you in this space and seeing where you work and what you do here and the role you play. And I mean, you must be so proud. It's like, look at your mate, and you're actually in a position to affect things that as a player you would probably have had thoughts on, but you were never in those meetings to really have an impact on the way things are driven.
I think it's really reassuring to have somebody like Katy stay in our game. Like, admittedly, I think hopefully one day she'll be in maybe a national position in some way, shape or form. I'm sure Michelle won't want that. But I think she's got such a brilliant brain for the game on the field and what she knows about the game from a tactical and technical point of view, but also the fact that she's incredibly intelligent and... Maybe not incredibly. She's intelligent, but she understands that side of it. She understands the human side of it. She understands the workings off field now. And like, as you say, I'm sure you've learned a lot about that. And fundamentally, she cares a hell of a lot about the game and about the people that play it. And I think for me, it's, as I say, it's reassuring to have somebody like Katy stay in the game and hopefully only go on to make it all better.
Yeah.
Not just that, but the way that she will actually challenge. I think there's a lot of people that have some ideas, probably not as good as yours, but actually the way that you articulate it and the way that you are happy to challenge because you know what's right and you've got
she's definitely not a yes woman, is she?
Yeah, you've like just your moral compass is so good that you can have those conversations, but with that level of respect because of what you've done, where you've come from. I'm sure you'd agree. Just
Thanks, guys.
100%. I mean, and also she's got the lived experience. You know, she's been at the harder end of women's rugby, like really having to grind it out and build out. And she's learnt so much. It's nice if you're in a cushy job and you're getting really big scores every week in, week out. But DMP haven't necessarily always had that. Loughborough's obviously had great success, but it's also not always. And then she's come to Sale and she's played and she's learnt it. And it's that understanding. And I'm so proud that we have so many women actually involved in the management of our women's team, because I sit on owners' calls. I'm generally the only woman, other than having Belinda Moore as CEO of PWR, or Genevieve, who's obviously our chair. Actually, most of the people representing the clubs are actually male. And what I love is the fact, and they have massive experience of rugby, but they don't necessarily have experience of the women's game. And I think the fact that Katy has lived it and breathed it and succeeded in it to the highest level, but also probably, been at the bottom end of it as well in some of the struggles of playing for certain clubs, is like invaluable to the league as a whole and for how the PWR can grow. So we are very lucky. And if she does one day get a job at the Ivory Towers of Twickenham, I would be 100% supportive of it, because it will be for the good of the game. However, she's northern.
Yeah.
She's got 3 kids, a wife and a dog up here. She ain't going anywhere.
I love that.
So true.
That's so good. But as a stakeholder in the sport, in a way that very few of us have the level of investment and are looking after and have so much skin in this game, and the kind of wolf that's at the door. I mean, we've literally just seen what happened in Worcester. We saw what happened with Wasps last season. You said something earlier that immediately made my ears prickle, because you said, we will probably own this club until we die.
It's in our will. That's no...
You are not going anywhere.
Well, we're not going anywhere, no. I swear to God. I mean, as I say, for one, Simon's gone and bought my childhood club. I'm from Sale. I would never, ever want anything to happen to Sale. So for as long as we can afford it, and thank goodness for the business brains of both Jed and Simon, that they have very successful businesses away from the club that can continue to put the investment in it. And we're committed to it, and we're going nowhere. We're probably quite fortunate we don't have children of our own. We have about 85 baby sharks who play for the men and the women, or the boys and the girls. But we don't have to leave an inheritance. So basically, in our will is a substantial chunk. I don't want anyone now thinking they're going to kill us off prematurely. But that's how passionate we are about it. 100%. That we want, Katy's mentioned, I am ultra competitive. I want to see both Sale Sharks teams get to the top and have continued success, and to sit back and have the satisfaction that we've organically grown it from 2016 onwards. And I want that to continue for a long, long time. As I say, one of the oldest clubs in the country, and we deserve to have the success because we are in such a hotbed of natural rugby talent.
Do you think there's many other owners that have the passion and the drive that you have? Because we obviously watched the documentary, the way that you sit here and you talk about the club, and also Northern Rugby and how you want to get the Northern girls back. And I love that that's the plan and that's the passion, is just to get everyone from the North back to the North. I think it's so sustainable. Do you think there's many other people in the game that have this drive and are this invested? Or is it because it's childhood club?
I think some of it's childhood club. I think some of it is because Simon and I mean, we eat, drink, sleep, breathe rugby. I don't want to speak for the other owners, but it's just become a very, very important part of our life. I'm sure a lot of the other owners are like that. I think we might be possible. Was definitely the only husband and wife team, I think, involved.
I have so much respect for that, because my husband does what I do and we don't work together. I mean, we work together, but we don't work together, if you know what I mean. That is a different kind of challenge.
Yeah, we've had quite a few fallouts on the way up, but we've got there. It took some time. I mean, initially, as I said, when Simon first got involved in the club, it was his company, Corpac, who bought it. It wasn't a personal purchase. And then it became ours. So initially I had nothing to do. I was never at Carrington, certainly never allowed to attend a team meeting or anything like that. And then I've just sort of finagled my way in.
Good word.
Thanks. And yeah, no, I mean, it took me a while to get a seat at the boardroom table, but eventually it's like, Simon, we're going to either have to do this together or we will end up separating. And you can't afford, we've been together 34 years now. So one, we didn't want to split up, obviously, especially over a rugby club. But secondly, I said, you can't afford to divorce me, mate, because you won't be able to afford the rugby club.
Yes.
So we've decided to like it, lump it together. And as I say, it brings a huge amount of joy. And when you have a double winning weekend and Sale FC won and Sale 1861 on the weekend, that was a great weekend for the team. For the town.
We have a member of our team who used to be a member of your team, Sam.
Yes.
He's got his fingers on the buttons. He's the reason we have Instagram posts, because if we left it with Scazzy, there would be nothing on the Good Scaz Rugby account. But Sam Dallas Brett told us that bowl, which is the logo on the shirt, is also or part of Simon's.
Simon's an investor in Bowl. So,
yes.
So a really good friend of our, Paul Brown, who's Mancunian, actually now lives down in London because he runs Bowl. He set Bowl up. Simon's invested into it. So he basically tapped up Paul when we set up the women's team and said, how about becoming the women's shirt sponsor? So, yeah.
So much skin in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, there are probably very few examples of this in the world of rugby where anyone is as involved at so many levels of the operation of a club. And I always think about the work that I do as being an investor, because if I'm investing my time, it's the most expensive thing I own. So if I'm spending my time doing any kind of work, if I wouldn't put money into that project, if I wouldn't have committed any of my own cash, then I definitely don't want to put my time into it. If I had to, as a player, make that decision about where I'm going to commit my time, I would want to have partners like you guys who have the same level of commitment and perhaps even more commitment to the project. So I think we should take a moment and say congratulations.
Thank you, guys. It's not all me. And I think that's why, Simon and I are so committed to it, because it brings you so much joy. There is nothing better than winning a match. There is nothing better than celebrating a win. There is nothing better. When we got to the final, it was other than my wedding day to Simon, it's my proudest moment, hands down. And I just can't wait to do it again and again and again. And at some point, we're going to get the silverware home. And at some point, we're going to have both those trophies, the men's and the women's, in that cabinet.
She's inspiring.
Don't you love that?
All right, fine, I'll come. It's fine.
You heard it here.
Can I ask one question that I love asking CEOs, especially in the women's game, but in general? So this women's program has been running for 4 years.
Yeah.
Are you still funding it now, and what makes it a good investment?
Yes, we are still funding it. I mean, we are funding the whole club, to the tune of millions. There is very little money to be made in rugby. It was hard enough pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, it's been even harder. And even this last couple of weeks, you've had a club post, a very successful club post, record turnover, but still making a loss. It's going to be a while before we get back on our feet. There are lots of things that need to be done to try and help get over that. But for the meantime, we're committed and we'll carry on making the investment. In terms of the women's game, is it a worthwhile investment? Yeah, 100%. And for the two main reasons of that, we owe it to the Northwest to have a successful Premiership women's team, but we also owe it to the women and girls game to be able to expand and encourage people to play and watch women's rugby and the sport in general, but women's rugby particularly. So no, we're not I mean, I do joke we maybe should become a registered charity for the women's team, because it is purely comes out of Jed Simon's and mine's pocket. We get a contribution from the PWR RFU. Please, I don't want to detract what they are investing into the game, but the majority of it comes out of us, and I think it'll be a very long time before we actually start breaking even, let alone make a profit. But it's definitely a worthwhile investment.
Is there an appetite for sponsorship? Like, is that something that's going to be growing? Is it something we can go after? So obviously, bowl on the shirts. Is there more of that coming into the game, or is it?
It's slow, as I say. We're in a tough neighbourhood, sporting wise, and everyone's only got so many pounds they can put into sponsorship or buying tickets to come and see you. It will grow, and the launch of the PWR is amazing. I love the name, I love the brand, I love the ethos, and so long as we grow it organically, I think it will be a great success. There are certain aspects of the game I think we're trying to run before we are walking. But there's no reason whatsoever that the women's game shouldn't continue to grow, and particularly having the World Cup here in 2025. And we're very lucky that we're going to have some games played at the City of Salford Stadium. It can only pique interest, but it's going to take time.
In what ways are we running before we've walked?
Could get myself into real trouble here, couldn't I? Well, there's a few things. So we've got a salary cap. The salary cap, I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to say what the salary cap. The salary cap for the women is very, very low for your squad of 45, 50 players or what have you. I think we all know that probably the men's game, their wages grew too quickly, too early on, which is maybe why it's not been as sustainable as we would like it to be. So we've got to be really, really careful with the girls. For me, I would be looking at the equity in the game needs to sort of spread the talent around the country. So I would be taking a percentage, say 30% of your salary cap or 50% of your salary cap can be paid towards the wages of the England Roses that you employ. And then the rest of it has to be spent on the rest of the team. That would mean that I'm going to just pick a number out. These aren't the actual numbers. Let's say that was £50,000. If you've got 7, 8 roses in your team, you're not going to be paying them very much. At that point, they may think, I could earn more money if I go there because they haven't got as many roses, so I'll have a bigger pot of money. So that would possibly see the balance of the distribution spread out of the roses, which would see greater equity in all the teams, and we'd all be getting more and more competitive. The other problem, which is actually a real problem for Sale, is EQP. So EQP stands for English Qualified Players. And absolutely in the game, your ideal is to have as many homegrown England girls as possible. And that's for 2 reasons. One, you want to give employment to your English girls. Secondly, you want to build a squad of great national talent for your international team. In the men's game, basically you have an EQP quota you're meant to hit. You're not obliged to hit it, but if you hit it, you get a payment from the RFU, which makes it easier. So you aim for it. In the women's game this season, and the parameters seems to have changed a bit, they want to introduce an EQP of an average of 13, Katy, players throughout the season. Now, that's all well and good if you've got 8 roses in your squad. You're going to be hitting it. If you've not got 8 roses in your squad, or 5 or 3 or what have you, you've got to get your talent from elsewhere. As I've referenced before, we've got to get girls of a certain calibre in to help bring through the girls that we're growing, our own homegrown, hopefully what will eventually be England Roses, Northern England Roses. So we've gone shopping overseas, just like we did with South Africa. We've got in some Americans. We've obviously got Tenez and Rigoni coming from Italy. And already that's making an impact and we're getting better. We will probably be penalised for not meeting our EQP. And I think in this first season, that's a little bit harsh. My ideal we look post-25, so post-World Cup, and then we start addressing that as a balance, because for the time being, I can't really see too many Roses leaving their home clubs, because why would they? They need the stability. They need the knowledge that they're going to be playing within a successful team. They might need to know that they're actually playing with 5 of the front England, the front 5 England pack. And I completely understand that. I completely understand that from the point of view from the RFU. But then they're penalising us. And I take it really personally. I'm going to put in £500,000 this season to fund my women's team and then potentially be deducted points, because that's what the penalty is going to be. Rather than incentivise, they're going to penalise. And it's like, well...
So you want more carrot and less stick?
100%. And I'm not against it. It sounds sometimes like it's sour grapes, and it isn't. It really, truly isn't. We are doing this because we want to grow the women's game. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be top of the tree initially, but we will get there because we have the drive and we have the ambition and the northern grit, importantly so. But let's champion that. Let's champion the fact that we've got girls, these amazing players coming from America, Canada, Italy, South Africa, who want to play their club rugby in England because it's such a great league to be in. That should be our selling point for now as we move towards actually all trying to get to that EQP to reinforce the women, the England Roses.
Somebody like a Rigoni as well could be a reason you gain supporters. It could be a reason that people start playing the game. It could be a reason that you get more people in your academy, in inverted commas, or whatever that looks like. Like, she is the sort of player that will attract people to our game.
I think also the way that you talk and the way that you've described what you're trying to do here, what you're trying to build, dig deeper. Like, it doesn't need to be about EQP at the top level. What are you doing for your homegrown talent? What are you doing for that next generation of people coming up? Because ultimately, they're the ones that we want to grasp and they're the ones we want to go after. Like, we want to be playing the best teams in the league. We want to be playing the best people that are out there. And we want this league to be the best in the world. Let's not punish that by like the points deduction and all that sort of stuff. Like, look deeper into what each club is doing and go from there.
I think ultimately we want it to be competitive, don't we? The biggest thing that we can sell is 18 games that are competitive week in, week out. And that's the trade-off at the moment. Definitely that we're having is it competitive or is it EQP, and where does that sit? And I think if we talked, Elma, about having to stream the game and showcase the game, we want the best players doing their best regularly. We do that. That's got to be much easier for people like you to go and say, this needs to be on TV. We need to be showing every game, every weekend, because this is the product we're now selling, rather than nobody knows because it's not sure what the purpose of the game is.
Within 10 years, you can literally double your audience. You double the number of people who care and are invested in the sport so quickly by taking this approach. Speaking of things that have been going swimmingly, can we take a hard left and just quickly chat about our Mo's contract? Yes. We should have acknowledged this right at the top of the show. I'm sorry, we skimmed
It's not
over
about Mo
it.
today. It's
No.
about Sale.
It's about this lady over here. And Katy, Daley-Mclean.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But worst kept secret in the world. But I'm glad that it's kind of gotten out there now and loads of people posted about it.
Yeah.
Structurally, what difference does this make to you?
It just means that it allows me to take a bit of a step back from my role at Hartbury University. So rather than being on pitch 4 days a week, I'm now only on pitch 1 day a week, which just allows me a little bit more freedom in my week to do my bits. So last season, pretty much didn't get to analyse or do a lot of what I normally do to go out on the pitch. So now it just gives me that chance, which is cool.
How much love did you get?
I got a lot of love, bless everyone.
Favourite one?
Favourite one, probably my grandma. I told her, no.
She already knew, surely.
I literally told her like the day after or a couple of days after I got the call to let me know. And yeah, she texted me this morning being like, congrats on the contract, darling girl. And I was like, Graham, you've already said that, but thank you so much. Love her.
She's so cute.
Has she just picked it up again on the socials?
Yeah.
So it just resurfaced. And she's like, I can't remember if I said well done last time. Let me just go in again.
Bless her.
And thank you so much, Michelle and Katy.
You're so welcome. I'm so thrilled you've come up. It's really nice to see someone actually come up to Carrington and not on the pretense of signing the contract or anything like that.
Well, you don't really know why me and Scaz are here yet.
Give it time.
We're
Sure, we're
very
gonna
proud
chat
of what we
after
do
it.
and we love to share it. And yeah, I'm truly, truly grateful for you all coming here today.
It's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for making the journey to our other mates. And this is the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby, brought to you by our friends at Vodafone. It's a folding pocket production produced by our queen and main brain, Shira Kilgallen.